Welcome to Bitcoin Live on Sunday with me, Nick and Sid. Thank you, Matty, for that awesome intro that you just saw. It's really, really good. So today it's been a while actually. It's been like 3 or 4 weeks ago, ever since my apartment flooded, which is still under repairs. So I'm staying at my brother's to record this at the moment. But how are you, Sid?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Bitcoin makes up for everything.
Oh yeah, in 4 months, things have just not 4 months, 4 weeks, things have changed drastically, right? Now we have touched new all-time high 70K for Bitcoin. Wasn't
Yes.
expecting it before halving, but yeah, we already saw it. So let's see where we go from here.
So just to stick a little bit longer with it, where do you think we are going?
Okay, so to be honest, I don't know, but if I hope, I think we will see 80K before halving.
Before the halving. Okay, so you're not saying like
It's
100
not a
before the
prediction, it's
halving.
just my hope. So I want to be clear because it's not based on any data. It's just
Yeah.
like the way things are going and it's all unpredictable. So we can see 80K and maybe by May, like first week of May, we can see 90K.
Okay, yeah, and of course this is not financial advice. This is just
Yeah.
us
It's,
speculating,
it-
like two
it's not
guys.
based on any real data. It's just like the way things are going. Uh, the BlackRock and the ETF money is coming. It's very possible to see that 90K, even 100K. But
Yeah.
I think it will be a crash in May.
Okay. But up till then, it's good
Yeah,
times. So
yeah,
up till the halving, we should be sort of okay,
yeah.
probably, hopefully.
But the Bitcoin is one thing, but altcoins are like killing right now.
Oh yeah,
Like it's not just one altcoin; it's like all of them.
yeah,
If
it's
you're
crazy.
invested in any shitcoin, you are in good game. I'm not talking about any shitcoin like the new one launch, but if you have invested something which is there for like 2 years,
Yeah.
Pepe, Flocky, Shiba, Doge, Baby Doge, those coins,
Uh,
they all are up.
yeah. Okay. Well, let's go on with the show. Let's go into the UAPs.
Or
So AARO just released a 60+ page report. Kirkpatrick did like a research, supposedly. He did a deep dive into the history, the government history, and its relationship with UFOs or UAPs or whatever you want to call them. And the conclusion was there's nothing to see here, guys. Go home. And that sort of created a ruckus because he got a lot of pushback from people like Ross Coulthart and now basically everybody out there who's actually doing research. And I want to play a little bit of a clip in support of the report because, you have to give them a fair hearing. And this is one of the briefings that they did. Let's see if I can get it on. Here we go.
On the UAP report, the Pentagon concluded that there is no evidence of UAPs being off-world technology, but it also said the government set up programs to reverse engineer such technology. Why did the government plan to study off-world technology if it says it doesn't have any proof?
Yeah, so as you highlight, no verifiable evidence that any UAP sighting represented extraterrestrial activity, that the U.S. government or private industry has ever had access to extraterrestrial technology, or that any information was illegally or inappropriately withheld from Congress, and alleged hidden UAP reverse engineering programs either do not exist or were misidentified authentic national security programs unrelated to extraterrestrial activity or technology exploitation. So what we found is that claims of hidden programs are largely the result of circular reporting by a small group repeating what they heard from others, and that many people have sincerely misinterpreted real events or mistaken sensitive U.S. programs as UAP or being extraterrestrial exploitation.
And this report is volume 1. Should we be expecting more?
Correct. Let's let's see here. There is a another volume. Let me just look at my notes here real quick. Bear with me. Let me take that question for you. I'll come back to you.
So I think he was as well prepared as I was.
Yeah.
It was really embarrassing if you watch the whole thing, but this was one of the highlights of the presentation, the briefing. Clearly, the general was just saying what he was supposed to say. What is your take?
He's lying. Or he's so stupid that he don't know. Because, there is a possibility that the main Pentagon, like main generals, are not involved, because we know that all those programs are not under government. They are privatized and they are under black budgets. And nobody knows where the black budget is going. That's why a lot of people are saying that, Raytheon, Boeing, they are the real contractors who are doing it for government, and they are involved in that. And so there is a possibility that they just funded money, and then what's going on, Pentagon didn't know. But I think somebody in Pentagon have idea, but they don't want to disclose it, because the moment they start disclosing it, it's not the aliens that the problem, it's the corruption behind it. That's the biggest problem. Like, why you are hiding that kind of technology, and like it's all sort of lawsuits coming for them. So that's why they want to protect it as much as possible, and they want to wait until the people who are actual culprits, they die.
Yeah,
So nothing will happen to them.
I fully agree with what you just said. And Ross Coulthard did a piece. I cannot play it because of copyright issues and that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But basically, he called it a feeble attempt at covering up. And he says he knows the name of the gatekeepers that sort of whispered into the ears of Kirkpatrick and his fellow researchers what they could and couldn't share and what the conclusion should be. And I think he's sort of saying that he will release those names. He also said, which is very interesting, that Ronald Reagan in the 80s had an executive order 12333. And that is an executive order that bans intelligence agencies against misinforming or spreading disinformation against the American public. So if that's the case, then, and they're lying, and it's proven that they're lying, and that's what he's saying, then they're actually also in breach of that law and basically engaging in illicit activities.
Yeah. But the thing is, law is for the poor people like us, not for these guys. So they don't. I understand. There are two things. Like, yeah, they want to save themselves, but I don't think they can be hurt, because they can justify that we were doing it for national security purpose. But when they use the term national security, and it could be legitimate that they have that technology and they were afraid of other countries stealing it because there are spies everywhere, so that's why they were hiding. So that can be justified and they can be secured. But then there is another problem. They just, some people want to be in control of everything, and they are those people that they want to know something which other people don't know, so they feel morally
Yeah.
higher, like in the class of this world. So they are like, they know something when people don't know, and then that's kind of a power they hold.
Yeah,
Also, a lot of money coming to them, like black budget money, so that's something they want to keep.
Yeah, and I think what you said is absolutely true, and I agree 100%. And I think also, when you sort of talk about national security, I think that the biggest national security threat here is the secret, and keeping it a secret much longer, right? Because of the corruption that is spreading everywhere. If you keep a secret long enough from oversight, and there's simply no accountability. So it's a very dangerous situation, and there should be in my opinion, there should be full disclosure. And one other thing that I also want to highlight before we move on to the next segment is that Ross Coulthard also pointed out what he said before, that the Inspector General of the intelligence community, which is sort of the highest person within the intelligence community, he said what Ross Coulthard, David Grush said was urgent and credible. And also there was this briefing, that skiff that they had with the Inspector General of the Intelligence Community, where he sort of told Congress quite a bit, which sort of confirmed what the whistleblowers have been saying. And of course, the whistleblowers haven't been going to AARO anyway, because they sort of recognized that it was dismissing everything they said and ridiculing it and putting it in the bottom drawer, never to see the day of light again, right?
Yeah. Also, like the thing is, I've been looking around all the UFO sightings. So there has been sightings everywhere in the world. So I'm saying, like, if the crash retrieval program we have in US or UK, because I think the NATO is like all connected. They have like one crash retrieval program, and then I think the opposite force like Russia, Iran, and they also have their own thing, and they are also not disclosing. I think it's better to come out and everyone should say like what's going on.
Yeah, that's a very interesting fact. And I think one of the interesting takeaways there is that if you see how hidden it is within American intelligence communities, like this information and the people with complete oversight of the projects,
Yeah.
It's probably just as hidden and just as classified within China and Russia, right? So probably even those governments have no clear idea what their real capabilities are or what their opponents' capabilities are, because it's so well hidden from each other.
Yeah. And like one body of the government didn't know what the other body of the government doing, and that's the problem. I think they need to centralize it and just disclose it, man. It will be better. To be honest, if we know that there is a threat from outside, we will stop fighting and we'll band together and then work together to see what's actually going on.
Well, and I think that's another reason, right, that they want to try to keep it classified so that they can control the narrative. And of course, they will spin a narrative where there will be an enemy from outside, an alien presence, an invasion of some kind. And then we all have to band together, and governments have to, give up their sovereignty to some kind of global governance model in order to combat the threat, and everybody has to give up as much freedom as possible to fight the aliens, and you have to print as much money as possible to build weapons. It's like the same thing that's going on right now, only on steroids.
It'll be awesome. Like, I'll rather fight aliens.
Yeah, but then the real ones, if
the
they're
real ones. Yeah.
if they're
Yeah. So you're right, because there will be a fake invasion, whatever they are planning to control the world. That's something is bullshit, and probably we will know. But if there is a real invasion, then we will see it, and that's what I prefer rather than fighting with each other.
Well, to be honest, I prefer no invasion, and I do think that if there's one group, whatever kind of group it may be, like it may be human beings of some kind, or it can be anything, time travelers, interdimensional beings, whatever they are. If there's one, there's probably more, right? So one.
If there is one, there are more, and then it's not possible. It's like gonna happen that there are some good, there are some bad.
And then also you have to be careful, right? What you call good, could also be something,
because I will go back to my original statement that there are no good guys. There are bad people, and then there are worse people. So we have to pick between worse and bad. So let's see.
Yeah, there's always some kind of agenda, and an alien agenda is probably not very much aligned with the human agenda. So
this is where we come with this theory that this planet is a prison planet, and we are just sent here because we are criminal from the other planet, and we are being born here. Like, our soul has been transmitted here as a prisoner, and then we die, we'll go back, and our sentence is full or whatever.
Yeah, but for example, that was what the Gnostics believed, like, with Gnosticism and the demiurge, that sort of...
Gnostics, I remember them.
And you have to find that sort of inner light that can sort of transport yourself to the highest planes, like, what Neoplatonists believed. So, but today we are actually not going to talk much about UAPs, or at least not directly. We're going to talk about remote viewing. So let's go to the next segment. So remote viewing. Let's start by what you think about it. What's your takeaway of remote viewing? Do you have a opinion on it, or?
Yeah, so I've read a lot about it, and then the project Stargate was very famous for this.
And grill flame?
Yeah, but the result came out not to be true, and I don't know if it's just possible to sit here and see without some sort of help. I mean,
Yep.
like if you have a because we don't know about the whole thing about remote viewing is like some people have the gift and they can just see things. I don't know if it's possible. I think either if they have like a machine which can help you transmit your consciousness in the space and you can see, that's one thing, or you're on drugs, like on really good mushrooms, then it's possible. But I think with the project Stargate, uh, the findings were it was useless and they abandoned the project.
Well,
That's like the official statement.
that's the mainstream takeaway. Yeah. But
Yeah,
so Stargate, which of course went by many different names and which ran from 78, probably earlier, much earlier, till about, what was it, 91 or something, officially. And it had
yeah,
different names: Stargate, Gondola Wish, Grill Flame, Center Lane. Many different. And you could also sort of MK Ultra, all that kind of stuff is sort of related. But there was this guy, a really interesting guy, and he's actually a mentalist and a skeptic.
mhm.
And we're gonna listen a little bit to how he got into his research. And he did 3 documentaries, which are basically one big documentary, which I advise everybody to watch after this show, because they're beautifully made and they're very detailed and very meticulously researched and very well put together and 100% convincing, especially part 2. But part 1 and part 3 will blow your mind. But part 2 is like the heart of the show. But let's listen to how he got into this research and how he went from skeptic
Let's go.
to believer. So here we go. It's from Weaponized.
Skeptical, why? And how?
Sure. I'm a magician. I've been doing magic for 20 years. And I think as a magician, we're very familiar with the charlatans of the past. Houdini was one of the first people to try and call out fake psychics and people mediums and this type of thing. Even in his passing, his wife kept doing that. And so I think naturally, as a magician, I'm looking for how things work. I'm looking for methods. That's what we're really passionate about, is how things work. How can I trick the mind? And when you start stumbling across people who do mentalism and psychic readings or pseudo-psychic readings, we've really nailed down how it is that you can convince somebody of psychic ability. And it's a really interesting topic. I really love it. And so for most of my career, I've just been very reluctant to listen to any of this stuff because I'm pretty sure I can fake it. And that was until that series came out, and it kind of flipped me on my head a little bit.
Oh, your voice is gone.
I think his name is Chris. I forgot his last name, but he's like some kind of famous mentalist, and he does tricks and puzzles. And sorry for forgetting the name, which is kind of sloppy. But he put together like a really awesome documentary, which I actually rewatched for this show, and it's very compelling. And I suggest we just dive into it head first and give people a taste of the research that he did and the things that he found. And this is from documentary part 2 about Joe McMoneagle, famous remote viewer who worked for Project Stargate. He was actually what was it? I guess you could call him Agent 0.01. So he was one of the first after Ingo Swann. And he was also one of the very best, which will, once you see this whole documentary, it will absolutely blow your mind.
To the beginning of when this all started.
My name is Joseph McMoneagle. I was the first one recruited for the Stargate program, which back then was called Gondola Wish at the time.
After searching through the CIA's now declassified archives, I was able to find the initial proposal letter for Gondola Wish to integrate the Soviet and East European parapsychology intelligence collections threat into an all-source OPSEC support scenario. It says here, both US and Soviet research have shown that individual paranormal ability is intrinsic, and that this ability can be enhanced through the training and practice. Even before Project Stargate was a thing, Gondola Wish was collecting documentation related to parapsychology from the following agencies: CIA, DIA, INSCOM, United States Air Force, and also civilian contractors. The conclusion: the Soviets have the ability to collect intelligence using paranormal means and are believed to be doing so.
So they assigned me 001. I was the only one with a 00. So I'm the only one authorized to kill people with my head.
So that's kind of, he's making a joke of it, of course. But so he was actually the first one after Ingo Swann, because Ingo Swann is the most famous one. He also wrote the book Penetration, which is a little bit iffy. People have some doubts about some of the contents of that book, because he had the tendency to romanticize and to aggrandize himself. But Joe McMoneagle is like a very sort of sober kind of person, no nonsense kind of person, and I recommend you watch the whole thing. We're gonna show some more clips from it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so this is like the first clip. What did you think about it?
No, so okay, one thing, it is in the declassified documents, the name of the project which he is saying, so it means he's not like bullshitting. There is something to it. The only thing is, I'm still not sure that some people have special abilities like that. It is possible, but I need to see some actual proof. One thing I can say, like, if you're high on drugs, you can do stuff, but without any aid of psychedelic drugs, it's hard. Because people already know that I'm very much a psychedelic enthusiast, and in my experience, I have experienced something crazy stuff. Like, I don't know if I talked about this before, but I was telling it for years that there is a big war coming from the Middle East, and we are seeing it now. I saw that on my psychedelic trip, and I see where it's going. So I see like some stuff, but it was like I was really high on mushroom, and you get information like that. So it is possible, but I don't know. You just have the ability without any sort of support. You just need to activate it. You can't activate it on will, I think, or maybe you can. I just don't know. But what I know, with the help of the psychedelic drips, you can do stuff like that.
So let's go a little bit deeper and see some of the research behind it. And I'll play another little bit.
With Joe since 1979. The Army, actually DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency, asked us to get an estimate over what percentage of the population can do this under laboratory studies. So we looked at roughly 600 people over different categories of folks. It was not random selection, so it was selected individuals. Like we had a group from Mensa, super brains, 2 alumni groups from Stanford, and SRI itself. They let us do that. Net, about 1% of the selected populations could meet laboratory standards. 1% of the population is a huge number of people. It's anything but scarce. It's much bigger than the skill to play a piano recital at Carnegie Hall.
It was originally designed to determine whether or not it was a threat, whether or not, if the Russians, the Chinese were using it, is this a threat? And they knew nothing about remote viewing. So in a desirable kind of way, what you want to do is train a few people, have them target your own stuff, like the Pentagon, the White House, stuff like that, collect some data, and then turn it over to an independent agency to evaluate. And they determine the threat that's there. And if it's a high threat, then you want to get more involved. If it turns out it's really nothing, you just close it off. You end the test period, and it's done. The problem is it worked, and it worked really well.
In yet another document, in a briefing to the Secretary of the Army, it states that 85% of the information collected from remote viewing was accurate, and 50% of 700 missions produced usable information.
Is something you can get better at?
Well, that is one of the most important questions. Military folks really wanted us to answer that question, and they don't like the answer. But unfortunately, I've got data on Joe McMoneagle and 3 other people spanning 30 years worth of data. So I can plot how good it was over all that period of time. And there's quite a variation. Sometimes he fucks up big time, sometimes he knocks the socks off, and so on. And then I can fit what's called a regression line through that. And if he's getting better, the slope will be up. And in the field of parapsychology, they have what's called the decline effect, goes the other way. The good news is that the slope of that line is 0.
Wow.
About 3 decimal places. All right, so how do we interpret that? Some people can, learn to play tennis and play at Wimbledon, and others can barely get the ball across the net, and so on. Same in ESP. And so what that means is you can learn and improve up to whatever your native skill level happens to be, not any better.
Oh, you're mute.
Yeah, I do that in order not to interrupt the flow of the.
Yeah, I do that too.
And then I forget that I turn off the mic. But yeah, so there's a lot more to this whole documentary. They also go to all the numbers, and but also especially I don't want to give away too much, because the documentary itself, like, it's 3 parts, and the first part of the documentary is also super cool. That's where this guy starts learning remote viewing himself, because there's like techniques. Ingo Swann was the first to sort of give a manual about remote viewing, how to sort of do it yourself. Of course, for the military, not to do it at home, but you can do it at home, as they show in part 1. And then as the investigation moves on, they enter into part 2, which is with Joe McMoneagle and Edward May. And Edward May is the person, the last director of Project Stargate, which ran by what was the Stanford Research Institute, which was originally created by Hal Puthoff and Russell. What was his name? Russell Tark. Russell Tark. Yeah, so Russell Tark and Hal Puthoff, they put together this sort of Stargate initiative. And then, later on, Edward May took over, and that's what this second part is about.
Yeah, but one thing, either it worked or not, but the one thing is certain, that U.S. government, specifically CIA, was looking into it. They were spending a lot of money. They were recruiting people. They were doing all sort of tests. The thing is, that's not the conspiracy. Like, people used to deny back in the day, like they deny UAPs. Back in the day, they deny remote viewing and all those things until they declassified it. So that is certain that CIA looked into it. And if I am being myself, and if I have to, like, if this thing work, my opinion is that's how they will say that it's not going to work, so people don't pay attention to it. If it's working, right? Because that's the right way, because they don't want other people to go and poke into that. If they can look into Russia, Russia can look into our secrets.
Yeah, and then one of the things that Chris, the person who did this documentary, said was very interesting. He said that at the start of this one, if you can actually run a project like this for $1 million a year, or a little bit over 1 million, why wouldn't you do it? Like, it's very cheap. You basically just need a bunch of people,
yeah,
with a certain skill level, and that's it.
1 million is nothing.
Yeah, it's
Even
nothing.
10 million is nothing
Yeah,
these days, right? So 1 million for it's a very cheap project.
yeah,
Yeah. But the thing is, this is what I'm thinking. Like, if it's working, then they will definitely come out and say it's not working.
yeah.
Otherwise,
Of course,
yeah,
and that's of course the problem with liars, right? They will always lie, even if it's true, right? So
yeah.
how can we actually trust anything they say? I mean, they proved it again and again, now again with AARO and Kirkpatrick. So why should we believe these people and take them at their word when they're lying at every turn, right?
Yeah, I don't trust the government at all. One thing I still think with this project, I think some sort of aid is involved. It's not just people have the ability to go. I think either they are giving them drugs or something else is involved. I just don't know if there is something superpower we have. We
Okay,
have
well,
superpowers, but I think something need to activate it. It's not like Superman, like you can fly at will. You need some sort of boost. That's how humans work.
okay, well, I'll show one clip that will blow your mind, because
Okay, let's go.
people want to know, right? Is it real? Is it real? Watch this documentary. Start at 1, and then part 2 will blow your mind, and then part 3 will be thrilling, especially once you see part 2. So here we go. This part is really awesome.
And white rat me in the lab, hit me with things that they were studying, that sort of thing.
Okay, let me show you something from Joe.
All
Okay,
right.
what you have here, this was an lucid dreaming study, Stanford University. And we told Joe that if you get lucid, get out of your body, go to the room next door where we have an envelope on the wall, open the envelope and study the photograph that's in that envelope, come back, wiggle your eyes, we'll wake you up and you tell us what you saw. So this is the only thing that he drew. And he says, Key Mountain, barn or large cabin, shadow mountains, trees and road. He also said path, American Rockies, or maybe the Alps. I think it is, in fact, the American Rockies. He said, I could not find the effing envelope. I searched all over that lab. He said, but I knew I was dreaming. So, clicked my heels together and said, I want to go to the place where the photographer stood when he took the picture that's in the envelope I can't find. Because what was in the envelope was this. Yeah, that's the right response. I could not draw it that well looking at the damn thing.
That is even almost to scale. What percentage of studies bear fruit that are this ripe? What percentage of those studies, with Joe specifically, let's say?
About 20%.
So,
Wow, that is, this is insane. I mean, it blew me away.
No, okay. So what he's saying is amazing. Just again, my one question. He said there was no envelope, and then he saw the picture. I don't understand what. Can you explain it to me? What? Or maybe I didn't get it. He said he looked for the envelope. There was no envelope, but then he draw the picture, and then he went to the actual place where the photograph was taken off. But there was no envelope. So how did he figure that out?
So basically what they did, they had an envelope, like a real envelope, and in those envelopes they always put coordinates, so there's only one thing in the envelope, and that's coordinates, and the coordinates are of the place that the person did something, or and so sometimes there's a picture in the envelope, but usually I think in this case it was coordinates, or maybe it was the picture, I forgot. But anyway, there's a real envelope with the real stuff inside, and they put it in a real room, and Joe knows that room because that's where they did the tests and stuff. So they asked him to go to that room in his dreams and then open the envelope that is there in reality, right? So that was the assignment. So when he became lucid in his dreams, he went to that room, but he couldn't find the dream envelope. So the real envelope is there, but he couldn't find the envelope in his dreams. And then he thought, just skip that part, and I'll just go straight to where the photographer took the picture.
Yeah, but I don't understand, how he knows about that coordinate if there was no envelope in his dream.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
did he figure out? Yeah.
So basically, there was an envelope. So he knew there was an envelope, but he couldn't find the envelope in his dream. But so this is like, one of the most extreme things that they did, because usually you don't have to do that in a lucid dream state.
Yeah.
You can actually just go, in a room, and then they have a real envelope, and then you draw stuff. And the nice thing about this documentary is that they also at some point Joe McMoneagle also goes to Japan.
Mhm.
And there's this game show that they have in Japan, where they sort of it's sort of like, is it real or is it fake, right? And then you have two panels, and one panel says, oh, it's real, and the other panel says, oh, it's fake. I think you also have it in America maybe, but we also have it in Europe. And then somebody claims something or claims to be something, and then the one panel has to sort of say true or false. And then of course they said, like, yeah, he's some kind of psychic spy, and he can see, he can do incredible things. And then during that show, they had like a person go someplace, and then Joe, of course, didn't know where that was. And then the assignment, like, with remote viewing in general, is to describe the place that person is, or what that person sees or experiences or whatever. And so and then the one group said, oh, it's total fake, it's nonsense. And there was like a professor from Tokyo who actually put his career at risk. He says, I'll step down from my position if this is true. Like, it's ridiculous. And that was all live television. And then so Joe goes to work, and he says, oh, I see this woman, like up to here in water, and there's like some stuff behind her, like fake trees and fake fence. And then people say, oh, we don't have fake trees in Japan, and it's nonsense. And then they ring the woman up, and she's laughing, and she says, yeah, somebody got me a towel. And then they put her on the screen, and she's like up to here in the water, and there's like a fake fence behind her and fake trees. Anyway, like, and Joe didn't know, like, these people don't know exactly if what they're seeing is real, right? Because they only know it's real after they checked it, right? If they once they get the feedback, they know it's what I saw or my description is correct. Up until that point, they could be wrong, right? They also don't know if they're right or wrong until they get the corresponding information.
Yeah. So one thing I will say, it's stupid to like bet your career about something you don't know anything about. It's like, yeah, because there are stranger things happening in the world, and there are many ways of doing that. And one thing, back in the day, people used to call stuff like this magic. Now we are trying to learn about those techniques, and we are calling it like pseudoscience, and it will become a science in the future. But yeah, it's not like that phenomena was not known before. It's like historically, when you go in the metaphysics, like not metaphysics, it's like, the tall tales of the religion. There are always saints like that who knows what's happening in the other part of the world. I've read so many stories like that, especially like the shamans know that when in Arabic culture they have not Arabic, the Sufis have those dervishes.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
basically, every religion has its
yeah.
mystics and seers, and
So yeah, so they see on the other side, and it's very common phenomena has been noted. And at that time, the people say that these people have that the ability from the god, because in religion it's like everything is from the god. So yeah, it is possible, and now we have a different understanding of it. So it is possible. I'm just saying, yeah, we need to see what's going on. And right now it's pseudoscience. In the future, it will probably become a science.
and who knows? Maybe it already is a science, but like you say, even if it is, they won't share it unless
Yeah.
we demand that they share it with us.
Yeah, like pseudos. That's why I'm calling it a pseudoscience right now, because in the eyes of the general scientists, it is not possible. So
And actually, this so I'm not, I can't play the whole thing. Of course, I want to play the whole thing, but I can't. But I do suggest everybody to watch the whole thing. And he also actually talks about that part, right? The real scientists, what is their take on this topic, and he shows interesting things. But I do want to share this bit because it also goes a little bit deeper in the numbers and the sort of true science or results. Let's put it like that, the results behind it.
Up a new restaurant in Montreal. 19 people come and fill up your restaurant. For the next week, 17 of those original 19 customers come back to your restaurant. What would you say about the quality of your restaurant based on that data?
I would say it was fantastic.
During the lifetime of Stargate, beginning in 1975 for the next 20 years, there were 504 separate missions given to us by the intelligence community and the military, right? To spy on the Soviet Union and China and wherever else. And those missions were spread across 19 federal agencies of the usual type. Of those 19 agencies, Chris, 17 of them returned with new additional missions. End of story.
There were some pretty high-level people that sometimes asked questions. Like committee members and things like that. I had to give a demonstration once to the Senate Select Subcommittee for Intelligence, which was done in camera, in secret. And this was basically done every year. I can't tell you what happened in the process, but I can tell you that the reason it was done is they wanted input from everybody we supported. And everybody would go in and say, this is what they did for us, this is how it worked, this is what was good, this is what failed. And based on that, they would have approval over whether we got funded for another year. And it lasted 21 years, so that, you know they're getting something of value. I would say, generally speaking, the people who brought stuff to us were absolutely, thoroughly agreed with what we were doing.
Here are the 19 agencies. That's the Army, there's the CIA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, there's the DIA, FBI, and so on, right? And the numbers on top of these bar graphs are the number of times independent chimes with different new missions that each of these places came back with new missions. And the all-time record here is 172 separate missions. A joint task force, after the Cold War was over, was set up here in the San Francisco Bay Area called Alameda. Their mission was to interdict contraband drugs coming in by the sea. So they would task us and the people at Fort Meade saying, okay, hey, 2 weeks from today, precognition, where can we board this boat in U.S. territorial waters? They came back.
Well, etc.
Yeah.
So yeah, this. I mean, watch the whole thing because it only gets better. And well, we're sort of running out of time. So, and I think I shared enough clips of this one. Actually, I want to share more, but I won't. The third one, and that's the one that we're going to talk about next time, because there's so much more to talk about. That will be about also Joe McMoneagle. He has a really difficult name. And by the way, the other guy is called Chris Clayton. I forgot the documentary guy is Chris Clayton. And that one will be about remote viewing Mars.
Yeah, this is what I was thinking. Like, that's the remote viewing Mars is a very interesting topic, and we need to discuss that because mostly I got into remote viewing studies, like to know about it through the story which I heard about the Mars, that their remote viewer end up in Cydonia. That's how I learned about the Cydonia province in Mars. So yeah, that's a very good one. We'll definitely rip that thing apart. We want to see what's going on there.
Yeah, and the nice thing about that one, it will also tie back to pyramids, right? Because we've been talking about pyramids for quite a bit. The 33,000 year pyramid in Bosnia, which is actually a group of pyramids, not one pyramid. Of course, the Egyptian pyramids, the Sphinx, and then you have the stuff that Graham Hancock does, connecting all the dots. And but also, like you already mentioned, the pyramids on Mars, and Forbot Ingo Swan, he did remote viewings on the moon, which are also very interesting because those things kind of echo the stuff that Joe McMoneagle did with his viewings on Mars. And of course, Joe didn't know what he was viewing. And we're going to talk about it next time, but he thought it was, that they discovered some kind of new pyramid on planet Earth, because he had no idea what the target was. They usually have no idea what they're viewing.
Yeah.
So, but before we go there, there was, of course, a very famous series on TV, Stranger Things.
Yeah.
And they also did remote viewing, like with the sensory deprivation, the tank that, what's her name? You remember the...
No, I don't know.
Let's see.
But sensory deprivation tanks are very real. Like, I've never tried it, but the people who have talked about it, they say they get psychedelic experience out of it, and I can understand how it's happening.
Yeah, I'm searching for her name. I forgot the name from the person in the series. Anyway, this is an interesting article, by the way, because it sort of dives a little bit deeper into the reality behind the series and the ESP that she showcases in the series, and sort of the proof that's there for it. And that's also basically what this documentary series was about that I just showed. And I'll put all the links down below in the YouTube video on Bitcoin Live, where we always put all the links and all the references, all the stuff that we talk about, at least 90% of what we talk about that I can find links for. I always put them in the description box until I run out of text.
Yeah.
Add to YouTube, because there's like a limit to the amount of but so always go to our YouTube, especially for the bigger picture, but in general, like we always put all our links and references there. Sometimes it takes a day because I'm doing it by myself, but there's like a huge resource for people who want to investigate these issues further on their own. Don't take our word for it. Like, we're just having fun with it. Also, we love this stuff. We love to speculate about it. But I'm not an expert on ESP or remote viewing.
One thing about remote viewing is, like, you can not only see the present, you can also see the future. Like, you can travel in the future to predict. Like this guy was saying in the last clip that he could predict what's happening in 2 weeks from now. I really want to learn that technique so I can go and see the charts of Bitcoin and trade accordingly. That would be a very good skill. Like, I'll be rich in no time.
There was actually also tests with markets, so that they use remote viewers indeed to predict prices. And some say you can't do it, but what I sort of took away from what I learned diving into these issues was that it is possible, and that some actually did it, and I wouldn't be surprised if that went sort of underground, and then who knows, that Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan have a subdivision of remote viewers in finance. This is, by the way, Ingo's phone.
Oh, that's Ingo's phone. Okay. No, but I'm just saying, if you have a lot of money, you can literally easily hire people, pay them hundreds of thousands of dollars to get the chart, because you can make millions out of it. So very, very possible that they have a secret remote viewing program. And I don't know if it's just remote viewing. There could be so many ways. We are just talking about remote viewing, but probably there is like other ways to go and get the information from the future.
Yeah, because with remote viewing is like one of the so you have ESP, and ESP is extrasensory perception, which is sort of an umbrella for psychic abilities, but that covers intuition, telepathy, psychometry, clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, empathy, precognition, retrocognition. So it has a lot of features to it. It's not just what we think, because what we think is often kind of limited, and I think it also sort of ties into the research that Donald Hoffman did, which is totally unrelated from it, but and it's food for another discussion and another episode, because Donald Hoffman's research is very interesting.
Yeah.
But basically, he sort of makes the case that a matter is actually consciousness, and that basically everything is consciousness all the way down. And in that way, everything is also connected, and there's no time, right? So, and these kind of things, there's also a part in this documentary that sort of talks about that.
Exactly. The time is like we are in the time dimension, so we see like present, past, and future. But technically, if you somehow get detached from that dimension, you can see past, present, and future happening at once. And this is why, like, for example, right now, what we see in the sky is the past. That's we see it happening, but whatever is happening over there is totally in the future right now. And if somehow we can go and capture the light from the future, we can literally get the information from the future. Because past, present, and future are happening at the same time, and light is always emitting. Somehow, just you need to go and capture that. You just need to find a way to detach yourself from the time dimension.
Yeah, and I think we should also maybe we need even to do 3 shows, right? I mean, there's so much stuff here, because I'm also a big fan of Rupert Sheldrake, and he did he did a lot of very meticulously detailed, but especially very strict tests to sort of study parapsychology, because it's kind of funny, because parapsychology is often looked down upon, but because it's so looked down upon, they have very strict measures, because they have to prove themselves to, for example, psychology, right? So the results are often double blind, triple blind, tested in every possible way. You probably also have kooks and crazy people, but the stuff done by people like Hal Puthoff and others, that is actually very well researched and very well done. And this is basically for your request of Project Grill Flame. You also saw it in the documentary. I think we're running out of time, so we probably have to leave it here. I had a lot of more stuff. Are there any?
We'll come back with the next episode with more information, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. We live in exciting times, and I think also in this regard, we talked about it before. Like why do they want CBDCs? Why do they want to exert that amount of control over people? Why do our leaders go crazy suddenly? Right? What explains their bizarre behavior? Because things were going reasonably well. What if people are being weaponized or being harnessed, or if they're afraid of our abilities, right? Maybe there is a great awakening, and if people have an inherent capability, then maybe we are a danger, right? So if you see some of the things that Joe McMoneagle can do, it scared some of these defense agencies. They were really scared by his abilities, and this is just one like regular person, like a regular Joe. So maybe that is one of the other reasons that they are doing what they're doing, right? And maybe that's also why we're sort of
but just imagine if our military is threatened by one man. Just imagine if there are other civilization in the universe, and they can see what we can do, and if they can feel threatened that we can go to their planet, like our energy, not like physically, and we can destroy them. Yeah, they will be worried, and they want to destroy us before we get real power.
Yeah, and this also ties in with the stuff that Ashton Forbes is doing with his he's the guy is like a bloodhound. When he has a scent, he goes at it, and the stuff that he's digging up, and the sort of the new science or the hidden science, which is probably very ancient science, is incredible. And that if you combine the two things, like perhaps our inherent abilities and this sort of and this hidden technology or hidden ancient science, if you combine the two, it would explain a lot of the stuff that we're seeing around us.
All right, we'll catch up in the next episode with more information, especially interesting for the Mars. And I think there is some stuff for the moon as well. So we will discuss both of them.
Yeah, and it ties also into just what you said, like, from the perspective of potential aliens and the danger that we could pose. I think that was a really good point, and that actually ties into that next episode. So
yeah,
hold that thought.
All right, see ya.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.